Hello, and welcome to this Palm Sunday reflection. My name is Andrew Webb, and I am the leader of the Salvation Army in Sunbury. So far, 2020 has been a very difficult year for many people. It commenced at the peak of the worst bushfire season that Australia has ever seen. 19 million hectares lost and over 3,500 homes destroyed. Before the bushfires were even out, COVID-19 was on the horizon in China, which now has over 1 million cases worldwide, of which over 5,000 are in Australia. We have seen generosity beyond measure give way to unnecessary stockpiling. In the face of such adversity, many people are searching for something or someone to blame. So far, these have included politicians, non-existent arsonists, emergency workers, charities, supermarkets, even entire countries. But why do people find comfort in laying blame on others? Why can't we just be upset and grieve without dragging others down? Perhaps because we don't like to acknowledge that we feel helpless, underprepared, and under-resourced. Pointing out the faults of others reassures us that others are just as weak, just as vulnerable, just as prone to making mistakes. And if we see someone who has been doing so well misstep, they become a lightning rod for all the panic and grief and confusion of others. Is this not exactly what we see on Easter week? This man Jesus is held up as a great hero by the crowds. He has spent a couple of years traveling around the countryside of Israel, teaching people to love and care for one another. As he nears the capital city of Jerusalem, riding a donkey, the great crowds are excited. They lay their cloaks in front of him and waved palm branches, singing and shouting, "Hosanna!" which means "Save us now." In the week that followed, he overstepped the mark or didn't do enough, and suddenly these same people were turned against him. He bore the brunt of the whole crowd's anguish at being helpless over their oppression. So much do they hate him now that they would rather a riotous murderer go free so that he can suffer a terrifying and agonizing death instead. History shows just how fickle people in crisis mode can become. Ordinarily, someone in that situation would, perhaps quite rightly, remind people of how good they are, what they've done to mitigate the crisis, perhaps going so far as to asking for forgiveness and admitting fault. Others realize their actions will have to speak more for their character than words. Jesus mostly remained silent, offering himself up to endure the whippings, the torture, and the agonizing death. Something bigger was at work. His plan to rescue and restore humanity forever was boundless enough to rise far above the death chants of that same crowd that had roared his welcome. God thought this was worth it. God thought you were worth it. Yes, we are often helpless in our own condition. In the midst of such tragedy, it's okay to feel upset and to grieve at our helplessness and fragility. The key, friends, is not to look for someone to blame, but to look to the one who saves. Even now, Jesus doesn't have to keep physically distant from you. Ask him to live in your heart, and you will find a greater joy and peace than you have ever known before. His grace is enough for you, because his power is made perfect in your weakness. Thank you.